Sir, shall we start? Almost 45 participants have come. Yeah,
Sure,
I'll just change the screen.
I'm ready.
Welcome all for the Aggregar Weekend webinar series. This is the first series which we are conducting, and it's our pleasure to have Murli Akunuri sir as the first speaker of this series. He will be taking forward on the topic impact of rural livelihoods in rural economy. Uh, Please bear with us if there are any technical glitches because even we are not used to hold such webinars. Thank you once again for joining for this webinar. I would like to give you few instructions for the webinar to be successful. Yeah, by default, you have joined the session in audio only mode. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes,
Yeah. And if you have any question, please post your question in question and answer section in the chat box. It will be read out and answered during the question and answer session. After the presentation, sir's presentation, we will have a specific Q&A section with the discussion with the participants. You will have greater experience of learning from his experiences. In case of any help required, please use the raise hand features on the screen so that one of the panelists can assist you. I would like to brief about the Aggregar Services Private Limited. This is a social enterprise which is established in 2019 specifically to promote rural entrepreneurship in the form of for the rural livelihoods. It's like we are planning to have small scale enterprises development in the rural areas, targeting specifically the youth who are prone to migration or in search of employment, and also to the women SHGs where they have formed FPOs already into FPOs. And also we are planning to target the farmers where they can get good benefit of the price realization going to the entrepreneurship model. I would like to brief about the mission and vision of this aggregator. It aims to be one-stop platform for promoting rural livelihoods as said through entrepreneurship or employment generation activities in agriculture and allied sectors. Through this, we want to scale up the rural economy of India, which is the strength backbone of the economy. Our vision is to achieve 1 lakh rural livelihoods in this sector in a decade's journey. We are planning to take this forward in 3 approaches. This is Awake, by creating awareness workshops and agri-knowledge towards rural entrepreneurship and employment. This webinar series is part of it. The second approach is Scope. This is like strategies of creating opportunities for professionals, mainly who are agri graduates or diploma persons who are in search of employment towards entrepreneurship. Similarly, we will be creating employment opportunities with connecting with different agribusiness units. So we are planning to have one application which will be acting as a one-stop platform. The third approach is core. It's like creating opportunities for rural entrepreneurship. This is mainly our backbone of aggregator, which will be where we'll be establishing a manufacturing unit which acts as a training cum production center. Through this, we would like to give handhold support for the aspiring entrepreneurs, thereby giving from end-to-end solutions, and it also helps in their business development. So we will be supporting them until they establish their business and also they get into their first market. So here I would like to introduce Murli sir, who is a well-known icon. So welcome sir on behalf of Aggregar. We are happy to announce that Murli sir is one of our mentor at Aggregar Services. It's our pleasure to have you, sir. though most of you know, I would like to give a brief introduction about Murli sir. He is a rural development professional with 39 years of experience, of which he served almost 25 years in social sector in various development departments, agencies addressing many issues such as poverty alleviation, social mobilization, building CBOs, it's like community-based organizations like SHGs and their federations. He was a stalwart who started this SHG and their federation movement in the form of cooperatives. And also he had a major stake in getting the NREGS scheme into this. He acted as director there for quite long. Even in the SHG movement, microcredit, and he was concentrating on the rural livelihoods and capacity building activities. So it's our pleasure to have you, sir, to be the first speaker of this, because you will be setting a platform for the next sessions which are followed in the series. His contributions are recognized in rural development sector as a torchbearer due to his engagement from conceptualization to implementation in key initiatives, including South Asia Poverty Elevation Project supported by UNDP, SERP, which is well known through Mulli sir, and APRP project supported by World Bank, and NRGS scheme, as I explained earlier. His other key engagements include CEO as SERP for SERP, MD and Vice Chairman for TSSDC and TS Oilfed, Telangana Agros Industry Corporation. His major contributions were when he worked as a collector and digital magistrate of Jayashankar Bhupalpalli district. And post his retirement, he's now currently engaged as advisor to government of AP in the infrastructure of education department. He has tremendous experiences in the social sector, and I would like to welcome you, sir, to take forward the discussion. I will just stop this sharing of this presentation and I will post the sir's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Soumini, for introducing me.
Sir, you can take it forward.
Yeah, thank you. But I'm not able to see the presentation. But anyhow, meanwhile, I will just start the
I will share
presentation without slides. Yeah, good afternoon to all of you, whoever are present here. I'll start with congratulating Dr. Soumini for starting this new initiative, Agriga, which she has been promoting since, as I know, since 6-7 years. And she has a very great, passionate individual in the sector, as I saw her. Basically, I'm not really a marketing expert, but I can describe myself as a kind of a little bit aggregation expert and promotion of community-based organizations like self-help groups and their federations. So basically, we started the promotion of self-help groups way back in mid-90s to alleviate the poverty. So in fact, in India, poverty and rural livelihoods, they are almost like synonymous. So unless you attempt rural livelihoods, you cannot really alleviate the poverty. So though we started the program without having much knowledge of rural livelihoods, but we went to grassroots and we tried to understand the livelihoods in the rural areas, especially with sitting with the poor and the poorest of the poor. So in fact, those days actually, there's a lot of change actually in the country. But those days, almost like more than 70% of the rural population in Telangana context, they were almost like dragging their livelihoods just to live. That's it, not to really have any luxurious things. Just food, eat food and sleep and do work. That's it. At that point of time, in fact, they were not even sending their children to the education. So we basically started from that kind of background. So we started with savings like 1 rupee a day. So in fact, we struggled to really get the women together to start this thrift activity. So why we started this thrift activity to attempt rural livelihoods is, I think, very interesting thing to know. So in fact, we started working with one Mr. Shoaib Sultan Khan, who is like our Bharat Ratna, is like that kind of personality in Pakistan actually. But at that point of time, he was an advisor to all seven SAARC countries in implementation of this particular project, poverty elevation project. So he used to really, he was our guru for that matter. So he used to preach three things actually. Whenever you want to really elevate the poverty, he said a simple formula. The formula is like a triad. So basically, he said that you are supposed to do three things. So to elevate the poverty or to attempt to rural livelihoods. So one is organize them, organize the poor. So because we have to target the poor, because poor are different from non-poor. Poor are different from rich because their livelihoods, their behavior, their attitudes, their situation, their context are totally different. So rural versus urban and poor versus rich. So a lot of issues in this. So he first pitched us to organize the poor. So as a kind of first point. Then second point, he said that build their capacities. Because right now they are like growing, so if you take the example of paddy, if they're growing like 10 bags an acre, you improve their capacity, build their capacity. So or build their capacity, how to really manage the thrift activities. So build their capacity to dovetail with the government programs, build their capacity to build the partnerships with the banks, with other institutions. So the capacity building being the second important foundation. So the third is that build the capital among the poor. So the capital formation being the third important thing. So these three things, build the organizations of the poor, build their capacities, and build their capital. So these three things are very, very, very important. So this is a kind of fundamental in poverty elevation field actually. That's what we learned from him. So then we started as part of the first point, building their own organizations. So as a first of the thing, we started self-help groups because self-help group is a like small, tiny organization having 10 to 15 women together. So because the problem is generally there are so many things actually in this, but to make it simple, why small group? Why not a big group? It started like this. How do you participate? So if a small group is there, your participation would be very effective. Or if it's a big group, the participation would be effective. It's simple. So if it is a small group, I think the participation would be nice, would be more effective. So that's how the self-help is. In fact, one Mr. Fernandez from Mairada, that was a great NGO working in southern Andhra and Karnataka. So he taught about this small self-help group concept, in fact. So we went there, we learned that thing. So then we started thrift activity, savings activity, and slowly after 1-2 years, so we started giving some money to enhance their livelihoods. So for example, if they want some kind of small investment to put in their agriculture, so they can draw some loan from the self-help group. So the project pumped a little bit money called seed capital. So as a part of the capital formation, their own money plus this seed capital from the project. So together, so they had some kind of free money where they can take this money either for the purpose of the consumption or for the purpose of putting a small investment. So that's how that investment culture started among poor. Because now I think everybody is taking loans left and right, but during that point of time, you can't imagine. So the rate of interest was something like 60% to 120% charged by the money lenders. So that was the kind of scenario at that point of time. So then we started, so just building their own money and giving some capital. So they started taking loans and they started investing in their rural livelihoods. So at that point of time, we we used to sit with them. We used to sit with them, and we used to just while interacting with them in the night, we used to identify their opportunities, like how much land they have, how much livestock they have, what kind of skills, little bit of skills they have, related to income generation activity, what kind of education status that family has. So something like that. So then out of that, they used to identify one or two activities where they can enhance. So with a little bit more investment or a little bit with more capacity building. So maybe trainings or maybe linkage with market, something like that. So that's how we started. We started in, as a project director, I started this project in Mahbubnagar district, but parallelly my counterparts, they started in Anantapuram and Kurnool. So that's where we started attempting this rural livelihoods. Then what happened after some time, after 1 2 years, so thousands of self-help groups were formed. But there is a problem. Like every self-help group cannot go to government, cannot go to bank for their needs, for their to access various government programs or credit from the banks or financial institutions. So then slowly we started bringing them as a kind of some kind of village level federation. So then, because there were some problems of conflict resolution, there were some problems of bookkeeping, there were some problems of groups, social problems. So there was some kind of mechanism is required to really attempt to their problems. So that's where some activists emerged out of this village federation. So those activists used to work like sorting out their problems. So slowly that emerged. Then these village organizations are formed into mandal federations, block federations. So these block federations were very, very effective in accessing government programs and in passing the government programs to the self-help groups and in passing the information, various information related things to the individuals through village organizations and self-help groups. So that's how it started actually. So at that point of time, the rural livelihoods, it went on like taking a small loan to buy one sheep to one active woman. She wanted to have one auto rickshaw. So that was the biggest livelihood at that point of time in the village, because that part, every village, I think they did not have any transportation facilities. So they started with autos. So a small ruminant to a kind of auto rickshaw, but that's a kind of motorable auto. So the various portfolios, because it was not like the present governments are doing like, so we will do the only animal husbandry activity or buffaloes, we will give only buffaloes, or we'll give only cows, or we'll give only some kind of retail chain related shops. No, at that point of time it was purely democratic. Even now also I promote that actually, because livelihoods means you cannot give one livelihood or one fixed income generation program to everybody. It is just not possible actually, because each of us we have different aptitudes. So everybody cannot be an entrepreneur. Everybody cannot be doing one activity, right? So somebody wants to do only agriculture. Somebody wants to do some horticulture. Somebody wants to do some kind of backyard poultry. Somebody wants to do some kind of vendors, vegetable vending. Or somebody wants to grow vegetables. So many, in fact. So at that point of time, I saw in one village emerging something like 200 different livelihoods. So that kind of rich portfolio, we used to have that. But to really have this kind of, to really facilitate this kind of environment, we need to have some kind of mechanism where the facilitative mechanism. So through some kind of supporting organization. So either through project or through some organization or through NGO, that is required actually. Otherwise, we can't really deepen the livelihoods among the poor. So, but at that point of time, thanks to UNDP, so they supported the whole thing. So then we started like that in mid 90s. So here some of the indicators you can see, uh, which influences the state of economy, which influences the poverty, which influences the prosperity and all that. So there's so many factors hamper the progress. If you compare these left side and right side things, so most of things are they are overlapping actually, because some are present, some are partly present actually. When you say they're present, they're not adequate, right? So like poverty is a broad thing actually. So but poverty in general is a kind of it is hampering the progress. And the diversification of the livelihoods, diversification of the activities is one issue, because everybody are trying to do a easiest activity. So that's like, for example, the best example is like when you construct a water harvesting structure like dams or lift irrigation, everybody go with paddy only. So I think there are so many other options actually, but because of lack of knowledge, lack of access to the market, lack of some technicalities, so people they go for only easy crop that is paddy, right? So that's where when you say agriculture, it is not like modern agriculture. So they're depending on the traditional approaches, traditional methodologies of the cultivation. So lack of access to the schemes. Of course, though there are schemes by government, but I think it's difficult to access those schemes. So then they're unable to do micro businesses. So because they don't have access to many things. I think in the later slides we can discuss in detail what are the things. Access to capital is an issue. So then women were less engaged. They are just used as laborers. So that's the biggest problem. So as so many go back, uh, so many go back. Yeah. So like this, there are so many factors hampering the progress. At the same time, there are opportunities available actually. Unlike 2 decades ago, there are good opportunities coming from the government, coming from the various projects like Startup India is one, Mudra schemes, and the supporting to self-help groups in urban areas, local, rural areas. So there are so many entrepreneurial development programs being grounded by various organizations, and there is skill development programs. There's some kind of latest technologies also available in solid waste management. So number of things are now coming up actually, but though they are not sufficient, but still it's okay. They're okay. Yeah, next. Yeah, I explained about this, the triad of the formula for poverty alleviation. Next. Yeah, there is a huge government of India project supported by World Bank. It's called a National Rural Livelihoods Mission. So in fact, I was explaining about this UNDP project. So that project actually was replicated in Andhra, combined Andhra with the World Bank projects. Then later on, that went to national level with this National Rural Livelihoods Mission, supported by World Bank. So now every state has this foundation of self-help groups, almost like in every village in the country, I can say. So this is one of the world's largest institutional platforms for the poor through self-help groups through women. So as in today, 6.7 crore Indian women are members of these self-help groups. So I think I don't know. I think if I tell you the numbers, I can't tell the number for the country, but I can tell the number for Telangana and Andhra. For example, in Telangana, I think more than 8,000 crores of money is being rotated towards rural livelihoods through self-help groups in Telangana, and more than 11,000 crores in Andhra, so being revolved through these self-help groups who are investing on these rural livelihoods. So these are kind of thing blown up in the country through self-help movement. So when I say self-help group, I think you have to think about the aggregation of the kind of numbers in terms of individuals, in terms of agriculture produce. So how do you really aggregate the agriculture produce unless you bring the people together? So that's where I think the best foundation is self-help group. Yeah. So next. So in fact, the women's self-help groups recently in COVID context, they have participated in preparation in manufacturing the masks, in manufacturing the sanitizers, because they are available right now readily. So the government, their district administration, they took the opportunity to train them, to give the investment, to give the raw material. They did the work actually, because they cannot in the COVID context, they cannot they cannot trust, or they cannot depend on the big companies which were shut down actually. So that's how self-help groups really took an active role, very very active role. So here there are some figures. I think Swami has corrected. So 19 million masks have been produced by the self-help groups across the country, and 100,000 liters of sanitizer, and so many other products they could do it. So then they served the meal also, because the standard work to the standard workers across the country. So a lot of good work they have done actually, because thanks to this SHG concept. And next. Yeah, there are, of course, there are challenges for self-help groups. It is not so easy. Of course, there are some sectors, very important sectors, and very kind of low-hanging fruits for the self-help groups, like health and sanitation in the COVID context, and the manufacturing and retail and textiles related, and agriculture related. Of course, agriculture is always available for them. So, but there are some challenges like, so it's a very difficult to brand the material manufactured by the self-help groups. It's very difficult actually. But nevertheless, nowadays branding is not that important. If you see like generic medicines, so nowadays generic medicines marketing has been picked up like anything, though they don't have any brand, but still they've been picked up. So similarly, I think probably after some time, these self-help groups, because they have themselves, they are the market actually. So though market brand is not required, but the branding to really access the city markets is a big issue. And still people are facing difficulty in accessing finance because the banks have been still restricted to giving finance of with little amounts actually, but they now their demand is much bigger actually. But the banks are still observing how to do that thing. So there are issues like poor statutory compliances because they need to really do auditing things and all that. So for that purpose, they need a lot of support from outside actually, because they can't really hire the professional auditors and all that. So similarly, absence of sustainable business plans because they were not assisted with the professionals, so they're not able to prepare the business plans. So still, of course, they have some skills, but still they need a lot of skills to develop their entrepreneurship. They have natural entrepreneur skills actually, but they are very hardworking people and they know which works, which doesn't work. But still, I think they need some kind of managerial skills of entrepreneurship. So somebody has to handhold them. That inadequate handholding is an issue. So then monitoring and evaluation is a big issue actually, because unless you have a professional organizations like SERP, they can't do. In fact, even nowadays SERP also is not becoming that kind of professional organization, I should accept, because in earlier days we used to think a lot about monitoring and evaluation issues, but nowadays I doubt whether they're doing the same or not. So here we have listed out so number of products. So where I think they can develop the entrepreneurs skills and they can do a lot of income generation activities around these activities. But always there's a market demand, but the problem is how to approach to meet the market demand. So that is a big gap actually. Yeah, next. Yeah, there was a project actually, Telangana Rural Inclusive Growth Project, again supported by World Bank. So basically, this project taught us. This project, in fact, Andhra it is doing very good. In Telangana, I think it is not doing well. In Andhra, it is called APRIGP. In Telangana, it is TRIGP. Almost like same concept. But this project is basically try to get in details. So where each productivity, each product, each producer. So how can we add value addition? Because this value chain is very important to really enhance the incomes. So maybe I will just tell one quick example. So if you like, for example, meat, say producing the meat out of sheep or goat, for example, if you just cut the meat, cut the animal and just take the meat, of course, it is not a good example for most of you who are vegetarians, but still I wanted to pick up that because the value chain can be easily understood. So if you just sell the meat, maybe think you can sell maybe at the rate of 500 rupees per kg. But if you just do a little bit with the technology, it's called sausage. If you do sausage, for example, so sausage cost is 2,500 rupees per kg, right? So, but in between, there's a kind of technology involved, some kind of storage is involved, some kind of chilling is involved. So, 3-4 steps are there in this, plus marketing. So, if you able to do this, attempt these chains, then your income will go from 500 rupees to 2,500, almost like 5 times more. So that can be done by the even poor also, provided some kind of hand holding, some kind of capacity building is given to them. So like that, so we wanted to really develop some kind of producer organizations, and then we wanted to federate these producer organizations into farmers producer company, and we wanted to do the whole thing in a professional way so that the incomes will go like a fourfold. So that was an idea of this livelihoods project. but it did not go well. But still, we could do something. We could establish a model in Telangana, in Andhra. So a lot of rural retail chains have been established. So in fact, in Telangana, in Nizamabad and Hyderabad, we had a Kushi Marts. So we did a little bit enterprise development. So but for whole thing, I think the SHGs are platform. SHGs are the foundation. So from them, so depending on say from one self-help group, so two people are interested in, for example, groundnut value chain. So maybe in another group, another one guy. So another group, maybe in 3 persons. So like that, these persons from the existing self-help groups, they come together as a kind of farmers producer group. Then they are spread it into farmers producer organization, then company. That was a model actually. Next. Yeah. So coming to this agrigar, for example, so anything for that matter. So if you really work for 3 to 5 years with a focus on the target market and with the rural entrepreneurship as a base, uh, there's a lot of money in this actually. So for example, in this model taken up by Dr. Swamini, I think this can give 30 lakh rupees income towards training activities and 4 crore income from marketing of organic and natural products. Lot of opportunities available in this. So I think let us hope that Agrigar establish this model which goes around rural livelihoods and value chain. Next. Yeah, if you see, these are the things I was trying to explain, At the bottom, if you see the self-help group women, and then you have groups, farmer producer groups. For example, one farmer producer group may deal a different produce, or maybe some of the farmers producer groups may take up same activity. But ultimately, again, farmers producer group is some kind of where you can take decision making democratically, where everybody can participate. That's the idea. So then this particular farmers producer groups again federates at farmers organization level. Then finally it goes to company level. So that company can be registered, and that company can appoint one CEO. That company can take up activities, and that company can enter into partnership and MOUs with the market giants. So that was the idea actually. So in fact, one vegetable thing we did it, and we could link it to the market giants. So it was successful very much. Actually, in Rangareddy district, we have taken up. Yeah, next. So this is a kind of value chain. For example, there are two examples here about value chains. One is groundnut value chain, and then other is maize value chain. For example, the present income, the first block, if you see, presently they are getting 5,417. In fact, this has happened actually. This is kind of one in one village. Our people have done this. If the present income is 5,417, if you again aggregate the numbers, so if you do kind of some kind of a production collectively, like collective purchase of seeds, collective purchase of fertilizers, you will get savings. That savings can be to the tune of 2,220 rupees. So similarly, productive enhancement by doing some good practices, so your productivity will go up. So because of your productivity has gone up, you get additional 387 rupees income. So then, because if you cut the interest rate of interest, which are charged by high by money lenders, if you take some kind of bulk loan from the bank, and if you take the loan with a less interest, so that itself contributes to 1,500 rupees additional income. So then farm gate procurement, if you link up with the kind of some market giant, and who can come and buy directly at your doorstep, that will add to another 2,100 rupees income. This is some kind of win-win kind of situation for both the people, for the shop, for the marketing giants, and also for the farmer, because farmer need not go to this town, or that guy need not to depend on the middleman. So directly he can come and buy from farmers. So that itself will add to 2,100 rupees extra income. So similarly, price realization, because most of the scenario, the farmers are they sell their product in kind of depressed rate. So that's called what is the term? I don't remember. But they just sell off with low price. So if you help them and tie the market, they get another additional 2,150 rupees income extra. So similarly, if you develop a storage facility, they need not again sell the product just like that immediately after harvesting. So if they save, because you have to match it to the season. So if that season, if you wait is the season, so you need storage. So if you build a storage by taking some kind of loans from the projects, there are some cheap loans investments available. So through that you can get additional another 1,680 rupees income. So similarly, processing, some kind of value addition. So if you do some kind of value addition, if you just package and sell it, so you get another 2,100 extra. So if you just sum up all these things, your income will go from 5,417 to 17,589. So this is the kind of value chain we need to link. We need to link all these interventions we need to do, and all those minus chains we have to remove, like money lending with higher interest and all that. So this is a concept of a value chain. This is a wonderful concept actually, but somebody has to work on this. So some kind of organization, maybe I think like Agrihar, for example. So Agrigar can do this. So Agrigar can really train the people, and these entrepreneurs, they can form these farmers produce organizations, or Agrigar itself can form the promote or facilitate a few farmers produce organizations, and they can attempt on these value chains. Then they can, it's a kind of win-win kind of thing. So these people also get some money, and farmers also get some money. So like that, for every produce, for everything, so for farmer, whatever they produce, I think you can do this kind of value chain. You can identify those chains and work on that, so that if they get, their incomes can go up. Next, Amma. So many next. Yeah. So for each crop, so there was one study. So for example, for each crop, the value chains, the additional incomes one can get. The left side is the present incomes, and the gray bar is the after value chain, the increased incomes. So for each crop like red gram, green gram, soybean, Bengal gram, groundnut, jowar, maize, castor, background, for any product you can do this actually. So if you see, some are for example, which one is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth one. The difference between blue and gray, if it's more, means I think there's a lot of opportunity to do a value chain, right? So there is like a small gap. So the small gap means already I think the people are doing a little bit better. So only few gaps are there. So there's in the way that gap is less. So it all depends on the crop, and then the awareness of the local farmers, and the context of the local geography and all that. Yeah, next. Yeah, this is what do we get out of the whole thing? Is basically it decreases the poverty rates of women self-help groups, women members in the self-help groups, and the increase in number of women engaged in the business. Because in the first slide we saw that the participation of women is very less actually. That's the reason why our GDP is less actually. So if you really build the gender equality, our GDP will go up to the extent of 27% more. So that's what one study says, one research says. So this way, I think the participation of the women will go up, and that's how the GDP also will be increasing. So then a lot of asset creation we can see, economic empowerment we can see among poor, among women, and you can see the market access for all the self-help group products. So if you see the right side, so this is the kind of nowadays, because if you see the Amazon experience and the Flipkart experience, there's a lot of potential for this online detailing. And Amazon has cracked to really to avoid the middlemen. So they are ready, in fact, they're ready to directly to come to the local farmers produce organizations and buy their product. And they also wanted to give their specification. And they also wanted to give the training, required training. So that kind of opportunities are available. So maybe I think we have many opportunities through online system also nowadays. So then even sometimes the buyers are even arranging the finance with the low rate of interest. That is also nowadays available. So maybe all these things have to be explored in the market, and we need to give that kind of technical guidance, social guidance, and professional guidance to these farmers for these organizations, and we can do a lot, a lot. So that's where I think the organizations like Agrigar, I think should be kind of coming into the picture, and they should, because there's a big gap. So that kind of professional organizations are required to link all these things, these chains. Next. Yeah, probably think some more new technologies, new concepts, new ideas are coming into this. One such innovative intervention is this livelihood business incubation. So, which is now the Agrigar is the best example for this livelihood business incubation. So, where this concept, whatever now I've been discussing for the last 30 minutes. So, to do all these things, value chain, access to finance, access to the market, capacity building, technology improvement, all those things put together. So, if you need to demonstrate, so you need to incubate as a model. So before we see everywhere. So that's where Agrigar wants to play a role. So as livelihood business incubation. So it's just like business model. It is like a professional model. So they want to do it using this aggregation principle, this organization of the farmers principle. Yeah. So for that purpose, I think all these 6, 7 points are very important. Next. Yeah, there are so many government programs available, but the problem is who is accessing them is a big issue. So maybe I think organizations like this LBI, we just now we discussed, these LBIs, so this professional organizations should come into play a big role. So in establishing the marketing platforms, in linking the building the partnerships, and doing monitoring and evaluation. So all these things I think we need to do. We need to identify the government schemes and all that. Okay, next. Yeah. So as we discussed, so these are the positive things which leads to increased demand for self-help products and improved sustainable development, improved asset creation, improved gender-based outcomes. All these things are you can see because of this. So because the thing is our population is basically in Indian context, unlike in developed countries, still 60 to 70% of population are directly or indirectly depending on the agriculture. So we need to do a lot of interventions in the agriculture. So for that purpose, I think there's a big gap. For example, in America, I came to know that it's only 2 to 3% of the population are involved in the agriculture. That means agricultural livelihoods has a very little role in America or Europe. But in India, still we are struggling to for that kind of development. So still, I think our 60% population, 70% population are depending on that. So we need to do a lot of things. So maybe I think this is a kind of one solution where you can really take up in a big way. Yeah. Next. Yeah, this from my side. Uh, Basically, I talked 2, 3 things. So aggregation of figures in terms of individuals to come as a self-help group to come into together as a farmers food organization, then access to market, and then value chains, and access to the capital, access to the partnerships. So these are the few things I try to explain. So this is that's it from my side. Maybe I think we can open to the forum.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving a very detailed overview of the activities which Aggregar will be taking. Though we had very short talk, but you took it in a very precise manner. Thank you very much. Yes, to all the audience, I would like to inform. See, this is the first session which we wanted to provide a platform where we are taking up things in the series of all these topics. So sir has given a brief overview. It's like a small activities each wise, each slide. And in the next 9 sessions, I'm very sure all the next speakers who are coming up will be giving out, it's like a presentation on each slide. It will be a detailed presentations and detailed discussions will be carrying forward. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Though you are so busy, you had to give us this one. Thank you very much. We would like to take some questions from the audience, the participants. We would like to request you to raise your hand if anyone wants to talk so that we can unmute yours. Srinivas Garu, you can take.
Hi sir, this is Srinivas calling from Bangalore. Good evening to you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening, Srinivas. Mr. Srinivas, yeah, I'm able to.
Yeah, no, I am working as IT professional. I am since 2 years. I'm doing the farming. I would like to start FVO. Can you guide me on this?
Maybe you need to undergo a small quick training with Agrigar for this
Yes.
purpose.
Sir,
I can't across the table.
No. So I want to know the basic details. What is the overall idea of the FVO? Okay. If possible, you can share. Otherwise,
Yes.
I
Yes.
will coordinate with
We request you
Agrigar.
to attend the FPO session, which will be there in the series, sir. Please go through that. You will get more insights of that, how the organizations are built up and how are the experiences. We will be having another speaker on this on 26th, if I'm not wrong. So please join that session, because it is not a one-time solution what we are going to offer from here. This is it's like what sir is speaking, it's like it's coming out of 5 to 6 years of journey. So yeah, each FPO, it needs its own incubation period. Please join us for the FPO session, sir. Thank you.
So many, any questions? So many, is it on?
Yes, sir. Bhujangra Garu, you can speak now.
Yes, madam. How our agriculture is planning to reach the at village level FPOs or the SHG groups and all?
We have our own database, sir, where we are establishing with the linkages. And from our previous experiences of our work experiences or anything, we are connected to few FPOs where we'll be starting the training services. Agrigar will be, it's like a training cum production center, which we are proposing to be there in industrial area, Dandu Malkapur. So it is going to take another 4 to 5 months to establish the infrastructure and also to the machinery. So more details we can speak then.
Okay, okay. Okay, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Utpalji, please ask your question. Chinababu, please ask your questions to sir. Chinababu Garu, please post your question to sir.
That question may be to you also.
Yeah.
Sir, myself Babu. I am doing my PhD in rural development at Tata Institute of Soil Sciences. Perhaps I worked under you in TRIG project with the reference of Praveen Kumar sir. So I am very glad about that, sir, because at least I have seen your working, and you are my role model also in rural development. Sir, my basic question is that, sir, most of the FPOs now they are gaining momentum, but what about the people who are landless? The majority of the poor people coming from scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in Telangana concern, but they are not even having lands. The SHG movement gave them an opportunity to grow their children to study, but now the children do not have opportunity. One side, they don't have a job. This type of opportunity, government is supporting, they are not having a part of in this welfare program. So what is the way out, sir, for the people who are coming from marginalized background?
Yeah, Chinabab garu, yeah, is a very relevant question. Sure. Thing is like when you organize self-help groups, you don't organize just landed people. You also organize the landless people, right? So for landless people, again, there are a lot of opportunities like say small businesses, petty businesses. So they can take some loans from the groups or from the bank. So with this kind of facilitation, and they can get into their businesses, small businesses initially. So this, for example, this rural retail chain is meant for them also. So they can establish small shops. Say for example, for group of shops, say if they buy bulk and they keep one storage at block level, mandal level, so they can collectively operate that some kind of warehouse, so where they can keep their these things, and they can take up the supply chain and establish that rural retail shops. So that is available for them. So like that, there are so many businesses. So I was explaining about the meat business, for example, meat, animal husbandry, like the rearing of ruminants. So they can do that actually, because that gives a lot of money. So that has highest internal rate of returns. For example, if you rear sheep or goat, for example, so they can go for like rearing backyard poultry, for example. So there's so many opportunities for them also. So the organizations like CRP, the organizations like DRDAs, the organizations or like some NGOs, I think they have to work on them also. So for example, in Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty, we have all these sections. So one is one works on horticulture, one works on agriculture, one works on these rural remnants, animal husbandry activities, one they work on rural retail chains. So many like portfolios available for landless also. So, but focus, as you rightly identified, that focus should be there for the organization, facilitating organizations. For example, Agrigar also should have that kind of focus, because they have some kind of, it is a social enterprise. They also have something, because they are good at heart. They also know the actual issues of the poor. They said in their organizational vision. So they also they can do that also, because the animal husbandry activity is open for landless, for example. So Agrigar can work on that also, because this is agriculture allied activity, which is not independent of agriculture actually, which is available for landless.
Mallikarjun Garu, you can post your question to sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mallikarjun Garu.
Sir, I'm working in Bangalore. I'm from Anantapur district. Actually, we grow a lot of, like, especially my area, no, the groundnuts, and that is a major crop like 10 years back. But nowadays, the crop, growing, the production has come down. But recently, people in surrounding my village and all, no, they do a lot of like, especially the perishable vegetables and all. Okay, often like only the once in like 2 years or 3 years, no, people will earn even sometimes they don't have, minimal investment also, including myself. I'm holding around like 50 acres of land, but we are not in a position to earn even 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs rupees from the agriculture background. But what I was thinking, no, if I want to establish any like with FPO, establishing FPO, and with this, can we do any processing industry, or this, any support from especially all the processing industries cost more, like establishment it costs around like 7 to 8 crores. Still with the the existing whatever the liabilities or land, can we establish this kind of a thing?
Yeah, so many.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
it
because
might
because
explain.
my area entire district up of the area no people probably like even 10% of the people, even 5% of people not earning in a position to earn whatever their investments.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Sir, what we propose to work on under Agriculture is like we are trying to map the gaps which are existing in each area. So we will be working on the gaps first, identifying the gaps, and then working one after one. Uh, unless until we work across the value chain of whatever crop you're doing, in even in agri or any other animal husbandry also, unless until you work across all the gaps, the envisaged the expected profit will not be there. Each gap, as sir has given a small brief about the value chains using a diagram. These value chains were established on field, taking the inputs from the farmers who are working, and it's all the data which we collected from the farmers itself. So we made them realize that okay, if you do this part, if you just have procurement of your paddy, you're going to get this much of benefit, and if you go to next level of that, you will get this much of benefit. See, each particular has been worked out with the farmers, making them realize the necessity of forming an FPO or kinding of working on agri value chains. Then only you can take any profit into the farmer's pocket, I should say.
Actually, ma'am, like last 10 to 12 years, no, I am being I'm happy with whatever the earnings I am doing it. But what I like my roots, my whatever the background, no, I came from agri background. But when I look into like me, many of my colleagues, many like last 10 years, no,
Mm.
if you calculate actually, if you put our what I can say, if you act as a real farmer, whatever the earnings and whatever the investment of time, no, whatever they are doing, no, it is not at all like a proportionate. Yeah, you have many governmental schemes, many things like last 12 years we are working, every day we are doing it. Though we are connected to the urban metro cities, but still no, farmer lives is not changing. That's what I observed, including myself.
Yes, sir.
I have a, nearly in Telangana, AP, Karnataka, I have close to 2,000 farmers.
Nice.
Yeah, people are not sharing the real picture. They're sharing sometimes in the dias, no, the positive sense they're sharing it, but negative the facts, no. Yeah,
There
this is what to change this.
Yes, there are
Yeah,
many pain points. Even if you are working in the FPO model, sir, it's not so easy to get them, gather them on one idea or one platform. It's really difficult. We also gone through to get them into an. It's like they are not used to work as a collective agents. Unless until their idea, if they don't realize that benefit, the farmers will never be in a form of a collective form. So we have to give our efforts, and we have to make them explain. It's like it's not only you, but you have to grow with others.
yeah, because why I'm saying, no, ma'am, last 12 years, we are we are changing the farmers to into natural farming side. We did lot of work. The background in the realistic, no. If you go and sit, the what the farmer is thinking, it is not yeah, we have many things that it has come across, but still no, farmer life is not changing at all. Yeah, the many FEOs is established, but FEOs is what I'm thinking. I have seen some areas, no, it is going well, but FEOs they're establishing, but only one man army which is ruling all these FEOs. That's what I have heard in the last many instances.
The farmers should be active into the business, sir. Unless until
Yeah,
they are active, it can't be. It's like again, it's going to be another marketing agent who is taking over the.
yeah. This is what it is a platform to
Yeah.
one man to grow
Yeah,
as yeah,
farmers should be.
this is a platform where the people know they establish with farmers, but only one person is going to be beneficial, whatever the governmental schemes or whatever the things, no. This is a practical thing that is happening. I have observed last 10 years, last 10 12 years. But the actual farmers now, if you go and ask again, they're going back to whatever the interest rate. they are not coming forward to do some of the activities in Anantapur. No, I have met nearly 500 to 600 farmers. This is the feedback what I am hearing from farmers.
Mallikarjun garu,
Yes, sir.
how many you should be visible. Please start your video also, because you should be visible to everybody actually. Mallikarjun garu, I think you must have heard about this Mulkanuru cooperative and
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hindupur cooperative in Anantapur.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Mulkanuru, yeah, Mulkanuru, I heard.
And
Yes.
in your district also there are 2-3 cooperatives actually very good. Hindupur, for example, Hindupur promoted by Syndicate Bank.
Yes, sir.
Syndicate to farmers cooperative.
Yeah.
So that is the success story actually.
Okay.
Maybe I think you as individual, you can also start in your village, one village.
Yes, sir.
How Pratap Reddy started in Mulkanuru way
Okay.
back 60-70 years ago. So you can start that kind of, you are saying now that these individual selfish people, how they really hijack everything. So
Yes, sir.
that individual should be you. So who can understand, who has concerned about the farmers.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can start and you can mobilize and you can demonstrate a little bit initially. Then that aggregation figures, like
Okay.
if you come together, maybe 20-30 people, better you can bargain the rates of the seed, the rates of the these fertilizers, and while disposing your produce, you can have a better rate. Maybe you can have a better rate with oil fed. For example, oil fed is there, so they
Correct.
can buy your product straight away. But
Correct. Okay.
you know, because I was MD for oil fed, we used
Okay.
to buy this your groundnut from Karnataka, some places.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
The border district. Yes. Yeah.
because this oil, this especially మనము పెట్టుకుంటాం కదా, that మామిడికాయ పచ్చడి ఆ season లో.
Oh,
So
no. Sir.
high demand for this oil.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, so we don't get that actually. So
Okay.
if you really have that kind of linkage with oil fed, so
Yeah.
we can supply this many quintals of this thing. So then I think meanwhile you can store that material somewhere for some time. You will get high price. I'm telling
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again that value chain, like you have to grade the material, because you get even that what do you call table groundnut. What do you call
Okay.
table
Salted.
That. Yeah.
Huh?
Table variety. Yeah. Yeah.
table
Yeah.
variety.
Yeah.
So table variety is very hot cake. So they're
Correct.
not available actually. So you can do that value by doing that value addition. So you can
Okay.
get a lot of money. So
Yeah.
in fact, your groundnut is so tasty, you know. So that kind of taste nowhere in the world gets. So
Correct. Sir.
I know the taste, because your thing is very sweet and very tasty. Very some different nice smell comes out of it actually. Even
Yes,
the
sir.
groundnut oil you get also with the highest quality, great
Yes.
quality. Nowadays,
Yes, sir.
everybody is now going back to groundnut. Yeah, I think you know, you must be following that.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
Getting this kind of activities, because many these bloody buggers, middlemen, they're exploiting the whole thing.
Yeah.
So if you link up with the oil fed, I think you have a lot of chances.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I took, I think, the other time. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like I shared the problem, and even today also what we are facing. Just I shared my points. Sir. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Any questions you can post us to info@agriculture.com. We will
Thank you.
write back. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank
We'll
you.
give chance to others also, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Carry on.
Govind Garu, please post your question.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Thanks for your explanation, and thank you, madam, for conducting this. I am from Anantapur district, Kalyandur. Yeah, same groundnut story, so I don't need to repeat it. But my basic question is like, so I just wanted to know more about the aggregate and how they are standing about. There are certain gaps. I was trying to do organic farming from past couple of 3-4 years, but I have seen some gaps. So in the sense like, so services in terms of how a normal produce will get institutional support, like so agriculture officers and demonstrators and the seed supplies and everything. But for organic farming, the farmer itself has to organize so many things, and there are a lot of information floating around between the WhatsApp groups on which to follow, which it's very confusing. Even the farmer is very much interested to do these kind of activities, but there is no institutional support. Number one, and if we can set up an FPO kind of a thing for these services, so not only produce but where the manure is required, for example, organic manure required, or So processing these kind of things and supply to the group of FPOs in mandal area or a district area. So any scheme or
Yes,
support will be available for this.
sir. With your permission, can I take this, sir?
Please.
Yes, sir. We do agree that all the value there are a hell lot of gaps in each stage of the value chain. What we say. So here at Agrigar, what we are planning to, it's not only Agrigar will be establishing all the enterprises. It's like we are going to create a model here wherein people can come and get trained, incubated, and see the real structure, how the business is going. Maybe it's like the young generation who are, it's like there, we always see that people who are studying in agriculture are not taking the jobs in agriculture. It's like the next level of things, and they're going to some other, because there are less opportunities available, in fact. So what we try to answer here is like, we want to pull them again back into the agriculture sector, saying that there are quite a lot of opportunities, even with a small scale investments. We are not planning, our center will be, it's like a training center with investments ranging from 1 lakh to 15 lakhs max, I should say. So the maximum capacity, what I'm planning is like, we are having 6 units here, including, it's like we are also planning to have only the organic and natural value chain. Saying that, okay, from seed to seed, we are trying to have different trainings. Maybe on the machinery side, yes, we will be having only a few models, but we will be expanding as and when necessary, because though I see it as a one-stop solution, I can't invest on it, or neither anyone can invest on it at a single phase. We will take it up phase by phase. And what we want to promote is like Agrigar, we want to see many more units coming up in each state. So we are planning here only a model incubation center, wherein people who wants to establish some livelihood activities in their rural areas come see what we are doing, learn from us, take the experiences back to them, and there they have to establish as per the need of the region. It's not that if we teach on cold press oil, there is no need, when there is no need of when there is no groundnut or any oil seed, there is no purpose of having oil unit there. So it's like feasibility analysis will be taking it's a holistic model which I want to establish. It is yet in initial stages, I should say. It will take another 4 to 6 months to start off with the activities. Because of COVID, it has been delayed. In fact, by now I was planning to get it done, but yeah, you know all the reasons how we are delaying each and everything just because of the health reasons. But maybe after 4 to 5 months, we are sure we will come up with at least a small model which can be expanded further.
Sure, thank you. Probably I'll talk to you offline, and so that you can
yes,
explain.
that would be better. Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions further to sir or anything? Please attend our other sessions, because the other speakers, they'll be detailing on each. It's like, I don't want to express myself now because I don't have anything on ground, but people who are coming as a speakers, they have quite a lot of knowledge. It's like, you can see Murli sir is like almost what experience he has. It's like, that's my age. So I should say, I can't brief out or can't match to their experiences. So if you see the series which is planned, it is almost going to be, it's like end-to-end plan. We are just starting off. This is the first session. Again, tomorrow we will have a session by Dr. Kalpana ma'am, who's heading the agripreneurship cell at the university. See, everyone has opportunities. We are just opening up through this webinar series because we can't have physical training. So we just took up this webinar series, trying to reach out as many persons as possible. Let's see if we can answer most of the questions at the end of the series. Maybe in this month, I've just planned all my weekends to answer or to reach out to you people. And I'm very happy that it has gone out of the state, which I was not expecting. People from Manipal and other states. I was really surprised to know how it gone there. So there is a lot of scope. People are showing interest. It's just because of lack of awareness on what is available there. So maybe more of such sessions will help in these activities. And people is like, there was a saying, there was a recent post saying that agriculture is going to be the next IT. It's like it's going to have a future like what IT had seen in the past 20 years. So I believe in that because of what I'm here now sitting working on solutions where we can provide. It's like, and Agriculture is always open for collaborations. It's like I can't or we can't do it as alone. So we'll be going ahead with collaborations. Few of our friends who are like-minded, we are already talking to them, and we are just signing MOUs wherein it's like one of the partner will be working on, we will support them. Similarly, it's like the mutual support system what we are taking forward. So yeah, we are in very initial stage to talk more. So please stay tuned with the other work sessions, webinar sessions, and I would like to have more learnings from you people also, because unless until we know the problems, we can't even talk about any possible solutions also. Thank you.
Yeah, closing.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has any more questions, sir.
Let us close.
I hope there are no more questions. With the permission of all the participants, then we would like to close this webinar session. And I would like to thank Murli sir for giving his time. So in fact, it is a second Saturday, so we could have his time. If not, it is really difficult. And thank you, sir, for giving us time and sharing your experiences, where we will have many more people getting inspired by you. And we just want more people to think like me, because I got my inspiration, or I should say what I am today, it's only because of what you have given us the opportunity there where we were working together. So sir used to give us like open-handed opportunities. It's like used to, one day he was literally warning me, unless until you try, unless until you burn your hands, you don't know what is going. That is one thing which I can't forget. Thank you, sir, with your blessings, and we want to take it forward. And that is the reason we are, it's like, I'm very happy to announce that sir is on our mentor board. Whenever his time permits, we will surely have his talks on to inspire more people. Thank you very much, sir, on behalf of Agrigar and also on my personal behalf. Thank you all the attendees who have registered, because we have not planned in a very big way. It's only a small way, I should say, but yes, there is a lot of opportunity which can be taken forward. We would like to journey with all of you, and it's like a mutual learning system which is going to be established in future. And thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Please write if you have any questions to info@agrigar.com, and you can browse our website www.agrigar.com, and we are also available on social media. Please browse through and please be connected. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all. We will write, I think there is a problem with the feedback form. We will write back again to all the participants. Since we are all connected to the WhatsApp group, I will share the link there again. You can give your feedback.